Hey everyone, and welcome to the Balanced Bodies Blueprint. I am your host, Vinny Russo.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Eryn Stansfield.
And we're shifting gears from all the conventional fitness narrative you hear on most fitness podcasts, as our main emphasis lies in preventative healthcare, adopting a holistic approach to nutrition, and challenging the traditional views on various fitness topics.
Our mission with this podcast is to provide you with the information you need to achieve optimal health.
And on today's podcast, I'm going at this solo, and we're going to go a little bit of a different route here. This is going to be focused mainly on like a mindset. So I've been getting some inquiries to do more mindset stuff, similar to previous posts that I used to do when I had Team VR. And I just put out a post the other day, and it seemed to get some decent traction. So I wanted to do a solo podcast on this topic. And the topic surrounds if you feel like you're mediocre. And the way that I like to look at it is that if you do feel that way, or if you are mediocre, it's because you're refusing to do your best. Now, I know right off the bat, like some people, they're not going to like hearing that. Some people are just content in life, and that's fine, to each their own. But if you want to achieve greatness, it's going to take a lot more than just being complacent with certain things, right? The truth is that when you look at the truth, it doesn't really care about your feelings, right? So if you feel a little bit called out by that statement, then maybe it's exactly what you actually need to hear. So this episode is really going to be for people that are tired of just feeling stuck. They're feeling frustrated, and the main thing is that they're feeling uninspired, right? Because deep down, it's sort of your fault here, right? Because you're giving that half-ass effort and you're not getting the results that you want, whether that be with your training, whether that be with the way your body looks, whether that be with how you're progressing in your career. If you're not giving it your all, you're not going to get the results that you actually seek. So let's go ahead and let's dive in, and let's really start by just calling mediocrity what it is, and it's a choice. Right? So too many people out here think that like being average is something that just like happens to them. It's almost like a victim mentality, right? They're like, oh, well, I wasn't born with natural talent, or I don't have time like other people. And they actually convince themselves that they're a victim of their current circumstances. But it's all just a lie. Like, listen, I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the biggest, I wasn't the strongest when I played football, but I was pretty damn good, especially in high school. And a lot of it was I was doing extra sprints. I would train extra with my father. There was a quote by one of our coaches where it was on 9/11. I was a freshman in high school, and football practice was actually canceled. And I went out there and ran with a parachute. Right? I was doing sprints with a parachute. It's not because I'm better than other people. I just had a different mindset of wanting to not be average, right? And that was my thing. So when I did become, Union County Offensive Player of the Year, the quote that stands above my head is "Hard work paid off" for Russo. And that's basically what this whole entire message is. It's like, I never wanted to be mediocre. I never wanted to be average. I always wanted to be better. There was always another peak beyond that mountain, right? So you climb up, you hit one peak, and then you see another peak, and you have to go and strive towards that other peak. Can that be a curse? Yeah, it can, because you're never really happy with what you get. But in terms of being mediocre, this is just an example of how when you put hard work into something and you do your best every chance that you get with every opportunity, that hard work and stuff can supersede talent. There's a bunch of talented people out there that never made anything with themselves because they didn't have the hard work aspect to it, right? So this whole thing is going to be about just being able to do your best every opportunity that you get, right? Because mediocrity, it's not the result of the lack of ability. It's the result of the lack of effort. So if you're stuck where you are, it's because you made peace of doing just enough, right? You decided that showing up half prepared, skipping the hard parts, phoning it in, right? You figured that was good enough. But the reality is that that's never good enough. It never was, and it never will be. So if you're in a situation that you're not happy with, and this happens a lot, and you see it a lot of people blame their situation. They blame their family. They blame their job. They blame their health, or whatever. They're going to blame something. But you got to understand, like, there's someone out there right now with twice as many obstacles doing 10 times more than what you're currently doing. right? Mediocrity, it doesn't happen because life is hard. It happens when you stop giving your best. You refuse to push harder. You stop holding yourself to a higher standard. And yes, that's a harsh truth, but it's the truth. Now, with talent, I'm one to believe that talent can be a little bit overrated, right? Because talent gets you in the game, right? But it doesn't keep you in the game. If you look at someone like Michael Jordan, he wasn't the GOAT just because he had really, really good talent. He was the GOAT because he worked his ass off. He worked harder than everyone else. And he took it personally when someone wanted to try to outwork him. He had to be the hardest worker always, right? He never took the easy way out. Even when he didn't even need to prove himself anymore, he held himself to this high standard to where he was known to be the best. Well, now he's got to stay the best, right? So if you're sitting there and you're saying, well, I just don't have it in me, well, to be honest with you, that's fucking BS, because you don't need talent to be great. You need consistency. You need discipline. You need, most of all, effort, right? Because if you're not willing to grind when no one else is watching, then you're going to lose, right? Honestly, you're already lost. And that's fine. It's perfectly fine if you're okay with that. But then don't complain about it, right? Don't complain about being stuck, because you can't refuse to do the work and expect greatness to just fall into your lap. You can't expect to not be consistent with your diet and then have your body automatically change. You can't expect to go into the gym and half-ass the training and never create enough stimulus to have your body to grow, and it actually grows. You can't expect yourself to get bigger arms if you don't train them to a point of where it needs to grow. But this whole thing with mediocrity, it really just, it happens when you get comfortable, right? Like, let's call it what it is. Comfort is pretty damn seductive. It tells you you've done enough and to take it easy, throw your feet up. But here's the thing. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Growth only happens when you're pushing yourself beyond what actually feels good. And it happens when you're tired. It happens when you're stressed. It happens when you're frustrated. But you keep going and you keep doing what you need to do. And that's where the growth occurs. The problem is that most people, they tap out at that first sign of discomfort. They hit the gym for a week and they wonder why they aren't fucking ripped, or they wonder why their arms didn't grow to fucking 21 inches. They eat healthy for a few days and they expect the scale to drop automatically down 10 pounds because they have this scale number in their head that they need to achieve. So they eat fucking salad and chicken and they think that all of a sudden the scale is going to go in that direction. When the results don't come fast enough, these people, which could be you, they quit. But that's the definition of mediocrity. It's expecting results without actually earning them. So what you need to do is you need to stop giving yourself permission to be comfortable. Comfort, there's a quote where it says, like, comfort is where dreams go to die. And if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, don't expect to achieve anything remarkable. You can't have success and comfort at the same time. It's one or the other. Now, some people are like, well, some people are born into success and they didn't really have to stress. Yeah, but do you think that's fulfilling? Do you think they feel successful? It might be a cover up. It might be a defense mechanism for an insecurity where they show that how confident and comfortable that they are. But if they didn't achieve it, trust me, deep down, they don't feel successful. So let me be clear with just one thing. If you are feeling like you are mediocre, no one's going to come to save you. Like, no one's going to pull you out of that quicksand of mediocrity. So if you're waiting for that perfect moment, if you're waiting for that perfect plan, or if you're waiting for someone to just kind of drag you towards success, or you're just waiting for your big break, you're going to be waiting forever, right? And that's always going to be on you. Your success, your growth, and your transformation, it's 100% your responsibility. If you're not where you want to be, stop blaming your circumstances and start holding yourself accountable. You need to look yourself in the mirror and just ask, like, am I really giving it my best? If you have to, wait and think about it, or, obviously the answer is going to be clearly no, then what you need to do is you need to change it. And don't make excuses. Don't wait for motivation. Motivation's a fucking lie, right? It's not always going to be there. You'll get like a wave of it and then it dwindles. You don't need motivation, you need discipline. right? You need to show up even when you don't feel like it. And that's what discipline is. That's the definition to me of what discipline actually is. So the difference between being ordinary and extraordinary is just giving that little bit of extra effort every day, right? Looking at yourself before you go to sleep and saying, you know what, today it was a shitty day, but I did the best I could, right? And that's it. Like, people think that like extraordinary people have some secret formula, but it's not that complicated. They just refuse to accept anything less than their best. And they push through barriers when other people quit at those barriers. They actually do the work even when it feels difficult, even when they don't want to, even when they look at it and they're like, I could get to it tomorrow, and it could be done tomorrow, but they do it today, right? And you have that same choice. You could just choose to really coast through life and settle for mediocrity and blame everything around you for it. Or you could actually choose to, day in and day out, do the best you can with what you have. And it's not just once, doing the thing once. And it's not just, when you feel like it. It's every single day. And what happens when you do this, not only do you build discipline, yes, but you actually build stronger character. You become a different person. You evolve. So the question is, what kind of person do you really want to be? Do you want to be someone who just settles for good enough? Or do you want to be someone who demands the best of themselves even when no one else is watching? What are you doing behind closed doors? Because that, my friends, will tell you your true character. So if you are mediocre and you call yourself that, or you feel that way, it's because you're choosing to do so. It's because you're choosing to be that. You have the power to change it, but it starts with owning your effort and refusing to settle. Stop giving excuses. There's no more excuses. There's no more blaming circumstances. It's time for you to just do your best and keep doing that until the results show up. And then when they do show up, that should convince you that you need to keep doing your best, so you keep fucking doing your best and you get even more results. Now, I know this was kind of forthright and straightforward. Could be pretty off-putting to some people. It could be like, who is this guy that's telling me I'm mediocre? I'm not doing that. I'm saying if you feel mediocre, or if you question whether you're doing your best or not, it's on you, right? So to me, life is way too short to be mediocre. One of my fears in life is to be average. And that's why I'm always, always, always chasing another peak. Like I said, that's a double-edged sword. It pushes me to be my best, but then again, I'm never really happy with everything, right? I get my business to a certain point, and I'm like, all right, now I have to start something else, or I need to continue to keep growing my business. Nothing is ever going to be really, really good enough. But I don't see a problem in that. I don't see a problem with always, always trying to do better and better and better. Some people will say, well, you'll never really feel like a success. Maybe that is. But if that's who I am, and me always trying to evolve and get better and better and better, then so be it. Because I enjoy the process. I enjoy the journey. I like getting myself to a point where I'm like, all right, now it's time for something new. And speaking of something new, I do have an app that I created that is coming out. It's called Macro Tasty. It should be released this next week. I'll give more information on my social medias about the app, but to give you a brief introduction to it, Macro Tasty, it uses AI, and what it does is it takes recipes and adjusts their ingredient portion sizes to meet your desired macros. So if you're like, hey, I need to hit macros for this meal, and it needs to have 35 grams of protein, 15 grams of fat, 20 grams of carbs, you just plug those in, and our app kicks back recipes that are adjusted to meet those needs. So now you can hit your macros while eating tasty foods. So that is our app that is coming out. It is called Macro Tasty. It will be powered by Balanced Bodies, just because this is our company. This app was my idea, but trying to keep it within the whole nutrition dieting realm. So stay tuned for that. I'll be posting more about that on my social media, mainly Instagram, because that's what I use. Been using Facebook a little bit more recently, but mainly Instagram. And if you have questions about that, just hit me up. I am going to be doing coupon codes for like the first 100 users. So all that stuff will be released next week at our podcast. We'll probably record it a little bit earlier in the week and get it out a little bit earlier. So we have a nice transition into the launch of this app. But with that being said, if you took offense to this, it's probably because you needed to hear it. If you think I'm some arrogant prick, it's okay. Didn't mean to come off arrogant or as a prick. Even with my example of what I chose to do, it was just something that's within me, which allowed me to be successful, especially like in that high school area, right? No, I am not fucking Al Bundy and live in my high school football days. It was an example of something that I did that no other people did. And I kept that mentality throughout my 4 years of high school, and it led me to be one of the best players in New Jersey at that time. So with that being said, we will see you all next week. And I hope you got some inspiration from this podcast, and you just try to be better every single day and give your best. Even when it's one of your worst days, you do the best you can with what you have, and you could say you did your best. That's all that matters. So on behalf of Balanced Bodies, we just want to say thank you for joining us on this episode of the Balanced Bodies Blueprint.
We are committed to bringing valuable content. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd greatly appreciate it if you can take a moment and like it and leave a 5-star review.
On Apple, just go to the show, scroll down to the bottom and rate it there. If you're on Spotify, go to the show's page, click the 3 dots, and you can rate it there as well.
And if you believe in the power of knowledge, share this episode on your social media to try and get the information out there to as many people as possible.
And as you navigate your own path towards better health, remember that Balanced Bodies is forever in your corner. See you all next week.
The podcast content may include discussions of medical topics and health-related information. However, the information provided should not be considered exhaustive or complete, and it should not be relied upon as a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment.